And okay, so welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about Power Docs, Power Google Docs. I do have another session on Thursday on Power Word. Some of the tips are the same, but the tools are in different places. Sometimes the tools look very similar or the same. So if you do this one, you probably will get some ideas on how to use Word and vice versa. But they are different programs and they do have different ways of doing things. Word is much more powerful and has even more tools than Google Docs. Okay, so I'm going to get started, and the first thing I've got to do is have you check into the session. And so if you, I'm going to close this. If you would scan and check in, when you check into anything on Handshake, so anything the Career Services Center does, you just use your @gwu.edu email. You don't need the, I think it's gwmail.gwu.edu. You just need your email address at gwu.edu. I will bring this slide back at the end, so if you miss checking in, that's okay. We just want to get a picture of who is here today. It helps us continue on. Okay, so I'm going to assume you've had time to do this. And trust me, this is not going to be a PowerPoint heavy thing. I'm just using this to kind of organize some initial information, and most of it is going to be a demo on the computer. So this is what we're going to learn today. So your hacks are power underlines, right tabs, controlling your space, and alignment. The secrets, I'm going to talk to you about what a point is and how to fit some text on a line. And then the magic, I've got a couple of tools that are going to show you some amazing things you can do to make your life a lot easier. And so with that said, I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to close this for a little bit, and I'm going to go on, and this is the document that I'm going to be working on here. And you see that I call this my bad sample resume. So I'm going to go at this to kind of teach you a little bit about resumes while I do this. But the techniques that I show you, you're going to be able to use from any papers or things that you're working on in Google Docs. So hopefully I'm showing you some things that you don't know that is going to make it easier to use Google Docs in the future. So I'm going to start at the top, and the first thing you see is that John Smith here has a lot of space using his contact information. And I'm going to show you where that lives, because sometimes people don't understand how to get all that space. When I highlight, oh, and I have to go in here because this is another thing. This is in a header. And when you put it in the header, you can see it's on this page. And if we scroll down to the second page, you can see the same information is there. One of the things about using headers is that it's great to have stuff in a header if you want this information on every page. So if you're writing like a 10-page paper, you probably want to have your name and the name of the paper on every page. You can put that in a header. In this case, we actually don't want to include this information in a header. And the reason why we do this is because this is a resume. And when you are uploading your resume to a website, and if you're applying to any on-campus positions or work-study positions, this is certainly true for you. When you are putting things in a header and you uploading it, what is happening is that a computer is actually reading the document and deciding if you have enough of the information on your resume for them to make a decision. So a computer robot or bot actually does the initial review of your resume. It's
Mhm.
looking for specific keywords. If you don't have your keywords on there, it's a human being is not going to look at it. But the other thing to note is that applicant tracking systems, the programs that these employers use, and there's a lot of different ones, but many of them will not read a header or a footer. They also don't read text boxes and they don't read tables. So you don't want to put any of your information in the header, in a table, or a text box. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this information and I'm going to delete it. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on this options. Now to get in the header, you just click 3 times in the top space and that'll open up the header. Um, in Word, if you have stuff in the header, when you're looking at it, it's kind of grayed out and that tells you. In Google Docs, it doesn't tell you if stuff is in a header, so you always have to check that. But you can see that I took that information out, and now what I'm going to do is just click on this options and remove the header, and now the header's gone, and I'm going to paste that information back into the document. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you is when I highlight a line in this information, you can see that the blue actually extends up above the text. When the blue extends up above the text, that's called space above. And if I click on these 3 dots, and that's because it's kind of a small one, sometimes this information will be here, but this is what Google Docs does when it doesn't fit on the screen. I'm going to click on this, and this is your tool right here for spacing. And you see when I hover over it, it says line and paragraph spacing. And what I'm going to do here is click on this, and you see how there's this option to remove space before paragraph. If I just click on that, you see that that space goes away. So what we can do is just highlight all of it, and we're going to go to custom spacing. It's got 10 points above, and we're just going to zero that out. So that's before and after. Okay, so now it looks right. Okay, so I'm also, like I said, during this, I'm going to give you resume tips. You actually don't need your street address on a resume anymore. This is kind of a holdover from when we mailed resumes. No one mails resumes anymore, so we don't need that. And then this information, these 3 pieces of information are your contact information. Now, anyone who looks at these numbers and thinks, oh, that's an email address, yeah, it doesn't happen. So we can take out, you don't need to tell them that's a phone number and you don't need to tell them that's an email because everyone knows what those are now. And then you can put all this stuff on one line. And I'm going to just do that. Now, to separate them, if you look on your keyboard, there's probably a key right under the delete or the key that you use to delete on the top right-hand side. Underneath that, there's a key that has a symbol that looks like this and then one that looks like this. You want the one that looks like this, which means you use Shift. So what I'm going to do here in Washington, D.C., I'm going to hit space, and then I'm going to hold my Shift key down and click on that, and it gives you this little line which separates them. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do space, that line, and space, and that gives me a really good layout. Now, the other thing I've noticed about this, you can make this bigger. So this text here is 11 points, which is good on a resume. You want to go 10, 11, or 12, and you can do 10 and a half and 11 and a half as well. But you want to keep it somewhere in that area. But your name, you can make bigger. And I go for about 18 points. And you'll notice that this is bold. We want that bold, but the rest of this stuff probably doesn't need to be bold. So I'm going to take all the bold off. And now it's just plain. Okay. I am going to take these lines out. This line is actually, I don't even know what it is. I think it's a graphic. Graphics aren't read by applicant tracking systems. So I'm just going to take them out because I'm going to show you a different way to do that. Okay, so your first hack is using this key right here to get rid of space before and after. Now you'll notice that this is not single space, it's 1.15. 1.15 is just slightly more than single space. It makes it quick for someone to read if it's 1.15, but if you need to make it single, go single. Don't do anything more than 1.15 in your spacing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is this right here. First of all, resumes don't have objectives anymore. That's another holdover from when we used to mail them, and so you would need your objective on there when the employer received it by mail. Now everything is done through applicant tracking systems or email. You really don't need that anymore. But one of the things I wanted to show you here is that if I highlight this text, you'll see right here that it's using what we call justified text, and that's where all the lines are the same. And if I click on this, you'll see that this is left aligned text, this is center text, this is right aligned text, and this is justified text. And what justified does is it pulls the spaces in between the words apart. And that is to make the right margin the same as the left margin. So it gives a nice straight thing. If you read a newspaper, you'll see that the columns have justified text. The reason you don't want to use justified text on your resume is that it actually slows a reader down. Because it pulls the spaces apart, your brain reads the shapes of words and not necessarily the letters of words, and it actually slows your reader down. So in most cases, this information, the header of your resume can be centered, but the rest of it, you probably just want to use left aligned text. And you'll see that this kind of shrinks up the line, but that makes it standard spacing. And so that is the next tip to know. Okay, this right here we call a headline or a heading. You see, this is called heading 3 here, but it's the heading for each section of your resume. This is the part I usually like to tell students should be in all caps. And there's a real easy way to fix caps if you have something that's all caps and you don't want all caps, or if it's not all caps and you want it all caps. This is a great way to fix it. So this is your first hack. You can go to Format, Text, Capitalization, and then we can say uppercase, and now the whole thing is in uppercase. So that's real easy. Now, this is not something, another magic trick I'm going to show you later can make paragraphs look the same, but it won't do this. So again, I'm going to go text, capitalization, uppercase, and I'm going to do the same thing with this text, format, text, capitalization, uppercase, and there's one more here, format, text, capitalization, uppercase. If you have something in uppercase and you want to take it down, I would suggest using this thing called title case. What title case does is it makes the capital, the first letter of each word in a sentence a capital letter. So whenever you're doing titles, you would want to use title case. You just have to go back and fix the ands and ofs because it'll capitalize those and they shouldn't be capitalized. Okay, next thing. First, when you're doing your resume, you are at the George Washington University. There are a couple of others. There's University of Washington. There is the Washington University in St. Louis. So we are the George Washington University. Now, whenever you're putting something on here, you want to have the city. So Washington, DC is where the George Washington University is. Now, normally I like to see that on the right side of the page. And what most students do is they do this, that tab, 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 and then they hit the space key until it does that, and then they go back. And I'll show you what that looks like on here. If I go to the view menu, I can click on this little thing that says show non-printing characters. And that's going to show me how this document was laid out. And this is something I normally check when I'm working with students on their resumes. But you see this little arrow, that's tab, 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 space, 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 space. And that's the way most students do that. Oh, and I forgot to take this out because we aren't going to do that. We're going to start with education. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take all but one of those tabs out. You see there's just an arrow there. Okay, and now I'm going to do a trick. This is a kind of a hack magic trick. I don't know, you can call it whatever you want. But I'm going to go to the edit menu and I'm going to select all. So this is going to put this particular thing on the whole document. And what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to click. And when I click in the ruler, you can see that it gives me this whole thing. So what I'm going to do is add a right tab stop, and you're going to see right away what that does. So you see that it put this little triangle right there. And now Washington, D.C., anything that you tab over is going to line up with this little triangle here. Okay, so while we're here, this is the left margin, this is the right margin, and this is a right tab. And I'm just going to click on that with my mouse to pick it up, and I'm going to move it all the way over so that it aligns with that other triangle. And now Washington, D.C. is on the right side. So we have the George Washington University, Washington, D.C. Okay, and when you're doing this, the next thing I'm going to show you, you want to say what degree you're getting. It's probably either a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, but sometimes you might be getting a Bachelor of Fine Arts, or you might be getting I don't know, a Bachelor in Business Administration might be a degree that we offer. I don't remember because we don't really work with the business school all that much. But what you want to say is the degree you're getting. Most people who are getting a degree in journalism and mass communication will be getting a Bachelor of Arts. So that's how you want to put your degree on there. And you don't really need to put this on this line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up. I'm not going to say graduation. I'm just going to say the name or the date when you graduate, which is probably May 2027, or for most of you, it would probably be May 2029. And I am going to just put my cursor right there before the May and hit tab, and you see how nicely aligned that is. Okay, and if you're getting if you know what your GPA is and it's over 3, we usually say 3.5, you can put your GPA on there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is talk about high school. So we don't need to tell them that you went to high school. You just need to put the name of your high school. If you are after your sophomore year, you can probably take high school off because it's not that important once you're in college. But what I'm going to do is do this, and you want not USA, but you want the state, and I would just abbreviate it. So if you were going in Minnesota, it would be Minnesota MN. And then here you want to say high school diploma. If you got an international baccalaureate, you can do that. But for most of them, it's high school diploma. And most of you probably graduated in either May or June. I'm going to tab this over and say June 2025, because that's when most of you who are on this call probably graduated high school. Okay, now we have created kind of a structure, and you want to think of this structure as where you are, where it is, what you're doing when you did it. Where you are, where it is, what you did when you did it. So now that we go to experience, you want to do the same thing. So where you were was Chili's. Okay, so let's, what I'm going to do is take this off because Chili's is where you are. Now let's assume that Chili was also in any town, Minnesota, and then you were a server. We don't need that dash, but we do want those dates on there. So I'm going to leave the dates as it is. And then you see that we have some bullet points. When you do bullet points, you want to think of the skills that the employer that you're applying to is looking for. Now, since this workshop is designed for freshmen, I'm assuming that most of you did similar jobs to this. So this is Chili's, working, waiting on tables, working at a retail associate, working in a camp. Those are very common jobs that you have in high school. And you want to start with an action verb. You want to talk about what you did and then talk about why it mattered. And since most of you are not looking to go on and be a server at Chili's for the rest of your life or be a retail associate at Old Navy for the rest of your life, what you want to think about with the skills that you did in jobs in high school is what skills did you learn at those jobs that are transferable to the next job? And this person has already started doing that. So team player, that's a soft skill that employers are looking for. Fast learner, that's another one. Good communicator, that's a skill. Social media, that's a hard skill. That's something else, but leadership is a soft skill. So I'm going to show you a secret in how to do these bullet points really easily. And this is not a Google Doc thing. I'm just showing you this secret. So I'm going to copy this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a ChatGPT page. Now, I happen to use ChatGPT. I pay for it. So I get the, see, I have ChatGPT 5. But you can do this with any program that does this. So Claude, Perplexly, Gemini, Copilot, any of those artificial intelligence programs you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it, make these strong resume bullet points. And you want to tell it resume bullet points because it knows that those are an action verb, what you did, and why it mattered. But in this case, I'm going to say that emphasize soft skills, because while you can give a list of the soft skills that you've developed at the bottom of your resume. That's fine. But if you put them in the bullet points, it shows the employers that you understand how you got those skills, and that makes it stronger. We call it show, don't tell. So if you just put it on a list, you're telling them. But if you actually incorporate it into bullet points, you're showing them. Okay, so that is my prompt. Make these strong resume bullet points, and we can correct that emphasize soft skills. And then what I'm going to do is hold my shift key down and hit return. And what that does is it gives me another line here without sending it to the computer. And I'm going to paste those 4 bullet points right there, just paste them, and I'm going to hit return. And it is going to give me 4 soft skill forward resume bullet points. So delivered attentive, personalized table service, ensuring a positive and welcoming dining experience for all guests. So you see, there's my action verb. There is what you did. And this is why it mattered. And you can see communicated effectively. So that's that soft skill to accurately take orders, answer questions, and provide menu recommendations. Collaborated, there's another soft skill, team player to coordinate food delivery and there is efficient. That's another thing that they're looking for. Maintained a cleaned and organized work environment to support health, safety, and quality standards. So you can see that this is talking about things that matter to employers someplace else. It doesn't really matter if it's a restaurant. Okay, so I'm going to copy these and then I'm going to go back to the resume and let's move that. There we go. And I'm just going to, you see how these are all highlighted? I'm just going to paste them. Now you can see what it did here. This little symbol here, that is a line break. It just makes it go to the next line. I don't want these spaces in between here, so I'm just going to take these out and make them actually have, and we don't need that one either. Okay, so now we're down to the next one. Remember, we have where you are. So where you are is Old Navy. And we're going to put another line here and do Old Navy there. And we're going to say that Old Navy was also in your Anytown, Minnesota. You were a retail associate. We want this on the same line. I'm just going to tab that over and there we go. Now, here is the really cool thing about ChatGPT. I'm going to copy these 4 and I'm going to go back over here. And this time I do not need to tell it what to do because it's going to just assume I want it to do the same thing as I asked before. So I'm just going to do that. And it's probably going to give me 5 more or 4 more bullet points. Now, what you want to do whenever you're doing anything in ChatGPT is read them carefully, adjust them to make sure they accurately reflect your level of duties. So one of the things I see a lot with students who do internships is it says that you spearheaded a project. If you're an intern, you probably didn't spearhead a project. You probably assisted with a project, and that's what you want to do. You also want to take out anything that you didn't do because like it says at the bottom here, ChatGPT can make mistakes. You want to check and edit it so it sounds like it's from you. But for high school jobs, these are pretty generic kind of things here. So I'm going to do that. And let's see, there we go. And I'm not going to do this last one here because you know what I did, but we want to do Camp Summer Fun. And let's do in the hills and because it's probably not in the same place. And there we go. So I'm going to let you do that some other time. Now, let's look at these. You see how we have one word in here? Sometimes we can adjust things so that the one word isn't on a line. It takes up less space. So what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to highlight just this one bullet point. And if you look up here, you can see that this is where the bullet is, and this is where it returns to. So you see that? Now, if just watch this one that's highlighted, and you can see I can actually move that bullet point in a little bit. Do you see how now the bullet point is closer? And then I can click on this bottom thing and move it out. And let's see if we move it out to there. Is it going to do? No, it's not going to do that. So I'm going to undo what I just did and leave it the same. But I'm going to show you another way we can do this. So maybe right now we have 1-inch margins all the way around on here. So let's go and see what happens if we go down here to page setup. Okay, so when you go to page setup, it's on the file menu. You want to make sure this says whole document. When you're doing your resume, there are your 1-inch margins. You want the left and right margins to be the same. I usually suggest that the top margin should be a 1/2 inch. In this case, I'm going to make all the margins 1/2 inch. And then you don't want to go any smaller than 1/2 inch, but let's do okay here. And now you see we have margins that are 1/2 inch. And now that efficient manner is on the one line. So that took a little bit. Now we've got a bunch of other ones. So we're going to play around with that. But what I want to show you, this is your right margin, your right tab, and you see now it's not in the right place. So we can just go up here to select all, and we can move this over, and now all of them are in the right place. See that? It's real quick. Now let's go back and look at, let's do this one. Let's see what happens when we do this. So we can move that tab in a little bit, and then we can move this out a little bit. It still didn't do it. Okay, so, but let's put them all like this because it might fix some of the other ones. So here is a magic trick. Okay, I want all the bullets to look like this one, and you can see they all look different. This one looks different, this one looks different, and these all look different. So with the one that I like, that looks the way I want all of them to look, I'm going to select the whole thing. And it's really important that you select this little thing. And if you don't have the non-printing characters, you can see that I just have that little bit of extra space at the end. You want to make sure you do that. And then I'm going to double click on this thing right here that looks like a paint roller. So I'm just going to double click, and you see now I have a paint roller on my cursor. So I'm just going to paint these, and I'm going to paint these, and I'm going to paint these. And now you see all of my bullets look the same. I did take out one line there, but we'll go back. Okay, so once you do that, I'm gonna unclick this so it comes off. Okay, so the next thing I see is the skills. Now, one of the things to note, if you see this little symbol here, this is a table, and you can see everything is there on the table. You don't want to use tables. Now, one of the problems with Google Docs is Google Docs doesn't have a tool to take things out of the table automatically. If you have a lot of stuff in the table on a Google Doc, usually what I'll do is bring it into Word, because Word does have a tool to take out the table. And then I take out the table, and then everything's on there. If you're just using Google Docs, you kind of have to highlight just the word skills, delete it, and then go back here and add it up here. Now, remember that this, and this are all soft skills, and we really don't want to include soft skills on here. So what I'm going to do is hit the return. And instead, if you have a language If you speak something other than English, the first thing you want to put in here is your language skills. Language. I don't know why I'm having trouble spelling this morning, but let's do languages. So let's say this person can speak English because they learned it at home. If you learned your language at home when you were a child, you're a native speaker, and you can be a native speaker in more than one language. But I think that Mr. Smith probably learned Spanish. Come on, why is it doing that? Okay, there. Spanish in school. So maybe he's conversational in Spanish. Now, notice that native and conversational are not proper nouns. I see this all the time. Students always like to capitalize those words. You don't capitalize them, but you do need to capitalize English and Spanish. Okay, now in this thing here, he says he knows Microsoft Word. Let's do this one. Let's do technical skills. And so probably, if you're here, you probably know Google Suite, and that's Docs, Sheets, Slides. And the reason I put that is that when the computer is looking at your resume and deciding if you have enough skills for an actual person to look at it, you're going to notice that sometimes the employer says, requirements, Google Sheets, okay? And if you just have Google Suite on there, the computer is stupid and it may not make the connection that Google Suite and Google Suite includes Google Sheets. So I usually spell this out. And if you know the Microsoft, I will also say Microsoft Office, and that's Docs, no, Word, sorry, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And then maybe Canva. And then this person knows social media, so you might want to include social media, and maybe TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. And you can see that these are computer program skills. These are languages. This is social media. And then what I'm going to do now is highlight this table and see if I can get it to delete the table. And sometimes it's kind of hard to do this. Let's see, no, come on, let's see if I could just delete it that way. Nope, it's not deleting the table. There we go. Nope, that just inserted a column. I didn't want to do that. Let's format. I should know how to do this. It's always really hard to get rid of it. And I don't know why they make it so hard. See if I know where it is. It's okay. Let's do this. Let's click on this. No. View. There we go. Table. No. That's insert. This is what I want. Okay, I don't have just the table selected. So there we go. Format, table, delete table. There we go. Okay. Now we have this activities section. That's fine. You can have this. And what I would do, sometimes you can do activities or interests. And if you have weird or unusual interests, I always like doing this. But you can choose, oh, come on, trying to do two things at once. Social media, writing, maybe fiction. And this should not be capitalized. And this should not be capitalized because those are not proper nouns. And let's see, Washington Commanders, just because I like going to sports games, I'm doing that. And so I'm taking this off. Now, you'll notice that there's another page here. One of the things you want to make sure that you don't do is have extra spaces down here. So if I go to the view menu and show those non-printing characters, you see we have all these returns. We just want to get rid of all of those so that there isn't 2 pages. Okay, so now we've got this basically laid out. I'm going to take that out. We have a space in between each of these jobs, which is good. Let's put a space in between those jobs. There we go. And then we have the skills. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do an underline. First thing I'm going to do with this, the header that denotes the various sections, is I'm going to make it bold. Now, it's 13 points. If you're running out of space on your resume, you might want to make it a little bit smaller. It can be the same size as this text, which is 11, but we're going to leave it at 13 right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to format paragraph borders. And this is my border. I want to put a border underneath that line. Now, Google Docs uses a 1 point as the default. A point is 1/72 of an inch. You're not going to be able to hold that, what that is in your head. So just trust me that on your resume, you want the smallest line that you can get, which in this case is 1/2 point. So we're going to make that 1/2 point. And then the paragraph padding, that's the distance between the bottom of your letters and the line. 2 points is a bit much, so I'm going to choose 1 point. And then I'm going to apply it. And you see it put the line all the way across, and you see how it's the blue is just at the line. And if I take this triangle right here, which is my right margin, and move it in, you can see that the line follows the margin. So it's going to make the line exactly the width of your text. Okay, now I'm going to add some space in here. So what I'm going to do is go back to this key right here, which is your paragraph spacing. And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to custom spacing. Now remember that this is 13 points. And so what we're going to think about here is proportion. If you hit the return key, you're putting about 13 points in there. I'm going to put just a little bit more. I'm going to put 15 points there. And then I'm going to add some underneath. So I'm going to put 4 points underneath. And you're going to see when I click apply how that changes the blue around the word education. So when I do that, you can see that there's my 15 points here, but now there's a little bit of space under the line so the George Washington University isn't right up against the line. And that's good. So now I like the way that looks. So I am going to double click here on the paintbrush tool, and I'm going to paint experience. And you see that it made it bold, it added the line, and it added the space. So it looks just the same. And I'm going to go down here and do the same thing with skills. And it did exactly the same thing. Now I'm looking at this, and there's all this space here, okay? You want to take up as much of the space as you can. So that means I can play with this space a little bit. And right now I'm going to make the space bigger, but this is also where you can make it smaller. So I'm going to highlight skills, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go back to custom spacing. And this time I'm going to say 18 and 6. So that isn't a lot of space, but it's enough. So 18 is like a line and a half. And actually, I'm going to do 6 there. And 6 is like a half a line. So I'm going to apply that. And now you see it took up a little bit more space. It doesn't look like a lot, but now I'm going to double click here again, and I'm going to go back up to experience and put some more space there. And I think that's probably good. We've got about 1 inch at the bottom, and that's okay. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to do here, I want to differentiate. I want to use bold judiciously to draw the employer's eye to the things you want them to see. And the way I like to do this is everything that is where you are, I like to make that bold. So I'm just going to make that bold. Now, this is where you can use this tool again. So I'm going to double click. And I've just selected the George Washington University. Now I'm just going to select generic high school. I'm going to select Chili's. I'm going to select Old Navy. I'm going to select Camp Summer Fun. I'm also going to select these little things so that they kind of stand out, that these are the things that you are skilled in. Okay. And then I'm going to unclick that. Okay. Now this is what you're doing. And I like to make that bold as well, but I want it to be different than the George Washington University. So I'm going to make it italic. And then I'm going to double click again on this, and I'm going to paint high school diploma, server, retail associate, and camp counselor. And then I'm going to unclick that. And now I am done. Okay, now I'm not done because those need to be done as well. But this is as close to being done as I can get. So you don't really need to save it. But if you ever want to share it with anyone to get some feedback on it, which I recommend, you can just click on this and share it with anyone you want. Now, I am the owner of this document. If I ever work with someone and we create a document in Google Docs, I cannot transfer the ownership because the staff and faculty at GW are on a different domain than the students. So if you ever have that and you want to save it, you want to make sure you save a copy on your own Google Drive, because if that other person ever leaves, you will lose it. Okay, I am going to stop sharing for a little bit and see if anyone, and there was something in here. How do you show your work is seasonal if you have done it? Oh, you can just do summer 2023 and summer 2024. So instead of having the date on here, and let me go back and share again. Let's share that. And so if you wanted to do that, so maybe you did this 2 summers. Okay, so let's do summer, let's spell summer right. Summer 2023, summer 2024. That's all you need to do. Oh, and this should probably be an actual date. Okay. Okay, any other questions? This is where you can unmute yourself and ask if you like. Go ahead, Boaz.
Um, First off, I want to say thank you. I mean, I learned a lot, but um, is there any way? So you said soft skills go under the specific jobs where you learn them, and you want to, give like the main word and then how you used it and what you learned from it.
Right,
And hard skills go in the skills section. Is
yes.
there ever a time that you should put soft skills in your skill section, or that you should like, yeah, I guess that's my question.
If you have space, and for certain on this particular resume, there is space, because remember, we have a 1/2 inch margin and there's all that space. You can certainly put those soft skills on there. And some people recommend that you do that. It's stronger if you weave them into the bullet points, but it in no way hurts to put them in a list, soft skills, and then just list them like I listed everything else at the bottom there. So that is a good question. And one of the things you want to do is, for most cases, you want to keep your resume to one page. And you want to think about what the employer needs to know that you are qualified for that job. If you were the captain of your sports team but you have a lot of other like awesome skills and stuff and experience and internships, knowing that you were the captain of the sports team isn't really as important. As long as you have space to keep it on one page, you can include that. But you also want to look at what they care about. And, if you're applying to be a research assistant in a lab, being the captain of a sports team isn't really something that's important. Does that kind of make sense? So you kind of want to think about what the employer is looking for and answer that question. Okay?
And then building off of that is must you always put things in a specific order based on when you did them? Or then should you like be prioritizing, if you worked at a summer camp and at, the Gap and or you had Old Navy and at Chili's, maybe this job you're applying for is very focused on, working together. So would you then put your summer camp job at the top versus even if it's, 3 years ago?
That's an excellent question, and I'm going to answer it by again demonstrating. So, and I'm going to say in this case, we're thinking about someone who is applying to be a tutor or an after-school program, participant, who's participating in an after-school program to help kids. This is what you would want to do. So I'm going to take this, and when we look at this summer, this experience wasn't necessarily the first one on the list. So what we're going to do here is call this relevant experience, okay? And then I'm going to copy this line. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to copy it. There we go. Copy that line, and I'm going to paste it in here. And we're going to call this other experience. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this experience and move it up here and take these two things and move them down. Oh, let's see if I can get a return there. Move them here. I'm going to take off those extra returns that I have here. So now this experience, which is the most relevant, but was at the bottom of your resume, is now at the top. And so that is an excellent way to do this. And here's the other thing. If you have a lot of experience, you have a little bit of relevant experience and a lot of other experience, you really want to be detailed in your relevant experience, but you can actually kind of mush this together. And one of the ways I like to do that, we can highlight these. Let's go back to the Chat GPT. I'm going to put those and I'm going to say condense these into two. Okay, so now it's going to look at those bullet points. It's going to try to pick out the most relevant things, and it's going to give me two bullet points instead of the four, because these are the other experiences. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I heard something. Anything? No? Well, okay, so I have to go back to have you, let's see, we want this. So play from current slide. Okay, so we learned about the format painter. We learned about how to make things all caps or non-caps. Those are my magic. I told you what a point was, 1/72 of an inch, but think about proportions. So if your font is 11 points and you hit return, you're actually giving yourself 12 points of space in between things. So think about that. I didn't really go over this. It's a little bit harder in Google Docs, but I did show you how to do the underlines, the right tabs, how to play around with your space, and how to use alignment. Okay. So thank you for coming. This is our evaluation. So my supervisor would like to know if this was helpful for you, so we know whether we should continue to offer these to students. This is the first time we've offered them before you get here. Every time I show a student how some of these magic tricks, they tell me, oh, I wish someone had told me this, before I even started, because it'll help you with your papers and things like that. So that's that. And after you all can do that, and remember, if you came late, when you check in, you use your email address with just the gwu.edu. So your name or whatever you chose as your email address at gwu.edu. And then I'm going to actually go back to the first one for those of you who came late. This is the check-in QR code, just to tell the computer that you were here. And that way we know when we follow up with you that you attended this session, so you have this information. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming in today. I hope you found this helpful. I really, really like to show you how to do this. I was a graphic designer in a previous life, and so I learned all these tricks, and I love to share them with you. So thank you for joining me today. And as I said, I will send out to everyone who registered this the recording on Zoom, so you're going to get a link to the recording. There's going to be a long thing, so just kind of fast forward to where we started. And hopefully the more you guys use that, the more it'll mark where the different things are. The recording is only available for about 6 months, and then Zoom makes it go away. Okay, any last minute questions? Nigel, go ahead.
So regarding I know you said using ChatGPT to help with enhance like your more your skills and also
Yeah.
your experiences. I was wondering how are computers well the computers that are detecting the resumes are they able to detect if you use AI too much?
They will. And so that's why I often recommend that you kind of edit them lightly, make it sound, if it's an action verb that you will never ever use in your own life, change it to one that you will use. Um, the more ChatGPT is used, the more generic resumes become. You really don't want to get too off the wall with your resume, because because your first goal is to get past the gatekeeping computer. So if you want an employer to even look at your resume, you have to get past that computer. So you have to score it. We have a tool, if you poke around or just do a search, we have a tool called VMock, which will help show you how your resume scores. And that can help you. There's also a specific tool there called, and my coworker has gotten off the call. It's called the Resume Enhancer, but anyway, it allows you to put the job description in, and then it will help you build a resume specifically to that job description. If you are applying for an on-campus job or an internship as a freshman, you're probably not going to run into really strong gatekeepers. So a generic resume is okay, but as you get further along in your academic career, when you're a junior or senior, that's going to get more competitive, and you definitely want to think about using VMock to help you make sure your resume is scored really high for that particular job. Okay, does that
Okay.
answer the question?
Yep, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we go?
Is there any
Okay,
way that you could share the document with us, or
yeah, I
just we
will.
would have to go? You're going to share the document with us?
Yep, I will do
Amazing. Thank you.
that. Okay, so it'll probably be later this afternoon when I get all this kind of put together and sent out, but I will send, and I'm actually going to send you a link to the ChatGPT conversation so you can see what it did. And I'll send you, yeah, I'll send you all of that. Okay,
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
awesome. It's
you.
great to see you all this
Thank
morning.
you.
Good luck and best success in your future endeavors at GW.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.